Hi, my name is Korame, and today I'm talking to you guys through how I played Preservation Evoker for Mythic's Zskarn. So this fight, the biggest thing that you're looking out for as a healer are the knockbacks and the 15-second dot it puts on everyone inside the raid. So obviously it's a knockback, you can't cast through it. It's not like the knockback on like Kazara or like Sludge Fist where it's just like a pushback and you can keep casting through it. It is an actual knockback that puts you in the air and is going to interrupt your casting. As a Preservation Evoker, this is really annoying because usually before a damage event comes out, you want to be like prepping your Spirit Bloom, especially this tier since we're relying so heavily on echoing our Spirit Bloom. Normally we know what damage event's coming out, we put all of our echoes out, we start pre-channeling the Spirit Bloom, and then we want it to hit as soon as the damage goes out. That is a little bit more difficult to play on this fight. However, I still think Preservation Evoker does great healing on this fight. You have something for almost every single knockback event, especially since they're basically 30 seconds apart every single time, so you can Dream Breath and Spirit Bloom every single one, and you can use the time between to be prepping echoes, and that's basically the approach you're going to see me taking. You also have some kind of CD, albeit usually something small most of the time for every single one, just because of the way the timings work out. But before I get into any of that, I do want to talk to you guys about my talents, because I know you guys are going to ask me about that first every single time. So I am just playing your standard Echo Spirit Bloom build this tier. So Spirit Bloom, I'm not taking 20-second Spirit Bloom, which is the norm this tier, because like I said, the damage events are 30 seconds apart. You're not going to get very much value out of this talent. I was running it at first and I was like, I don't know why I have it here. I am taking 2 points into flow state. Looking back at it, I think I actually would have done something like this. I think you want like at least 1 point in flow state, because when things are pretty close to being 30 seconds apart, having a little bit more leeway on getting them back off CD is going to help you. Otherwise, things could start getting really desynced really quickly. I think having at least 1 point in flow state will help you. But I do think Accelerating Burst has a lot of value this tier, especially since I'm wearing my Clash Trinket, which has a lot of crit on it. But yeah, this gets a lot of value this tier just because of our 4 set. You're getting a lot of Essence Burst, so you get really high uptime on Accelerating Burst. So this is what I would have done, but it's not what I did. I took 1 point in Time of Need. The reason being, you're not going to get an extra rewind, and I wasn't going to get better rewind timings by taking 3-minute rewind. So no point in putting anything here. You could put an energy loop. However, I found for the most part I wasn't having mana problems. I didn't mana pot, and most of my essence was actually just being used to cast hard echoes to get ready for the next damage event that was coming. That's because it was like really bursty healing that was needed. So I took Time of Need, which is like, it's like okay value, but for the most part I just wanted to make sure that I was getting down to stasis. Only other thing of note is that I also was taking Time Spiral, because there's the ability called Tactical Destruction, which makes you move across the room pretty frequently. Sometimes people need that extra amount of movement to help them out, so Time Spiral is a nice button to have. Other than that, everything pretty standard. I'm running a high mat. It's my stat weight third mat mastery, then crit, then haste, the verse, in case you're wondering. Okay, now looking at the fight, before I get into it, I just want to give you like a really brief overview, because I'm going to talk about it in the video, but in case you like having things laying out, I'm just going to throw this up on the screen in case you want to save this for yourself. This is basically my CD layout, so that like I said, you basically have something for every single knockback, though some of them are small, but it's always some kind of throughput that is going to help since you're getting displaced every single knockback. Those kinds of things do help. Okay, so getting into the video, I do pre-TA stasis this. Normally I do 3 TAs, but since I didn't have stasis up on pole, I'm only going to put 2 TAs and then just like 1 hard cast echo inside of there. I took the scales of Spirit Bloom on pole as well. I released my stasis, and then I'm just going to do an Emerald Communion. You get 3 Emerald Communions this fight, and that little CD thing I showed you, you usually get about 16 knocks. It depends on your kill time how many knocks you have, but I only had it to 12. But I do end up getting 3 Emerald Communions pretty easily this fight, which is why I wanted to Emerald Communion early. So this next knockback that's coming is usually when I Dream Flight. Now, normally, I Dream Flight right away. So what happens here is a knockback is going to go off, and these lines are going to go off about 1 second after. But since I am targeted with the line, I'm going to just dream breath and then do a Dream Flight. Another thing that I kind of want to touch on is there are kind of 2 approaches to take with every single knockback. The first one is you can start putting out echoes, wait until you get knocked back, and then fully channel a Spirit Bloom, which means your healing is going to come out every single time about 4 seconds after the first initial damage event. And sometimes when this lines up with lines going off like this, it's kind of sucky that you're waiting that long to put out healing. So towards the end of our prog, I started doing this thing where I started doing a VE, and then I would TA, put out like 3 or 4 echoes, and then do a Dream Breath. I thought this was better because number 1, Dream Breath, the dot lasts 12 seconds, and the damage dot that you get lasts 15 seconds, and then the Spirit Bloom one only lasts 8 seconds. So doing Dream Breath, then Spirit Bloom made more sense, even though it meant that I was echoing my Dream Breath and not my Spirit Bloom. It doesn't really matter. It's just a little... I did a bad job of executing it on this pull. I will say that, because a lot of times I was VEing too early before the damage event, or I just wasn't committing the Dream Breath before the damage event. Because the other thing you could do is you could do VE, TA, a few echoes, Dream Breath right before the knockback goes out, so you're still getting like full value on the hot during the entire time, and then Spirit Blooming after. There are many approaches I think you can take with that. I don't think there's a wrong one. Some of them are just easier to play. Spirit Blooming before Dream Breathing is definitely easier because you're not going to mess anything up. But yeah, just gonna throw that out there. So I Dream Breath here, but I lost my Call of Viscera. So what I should have done here, looking at it, was just do a pre-Dream Breath before the knockback went out. But I realized too late, and I do this quite a bit because I hadn't gotten used to playing this way yet, and we could end up killing it like the 3rd pull that I was trying this out on. That I was messing it up. But I still do fine healing. But yeah, just a note of caution. So yeah, this is my Dream Flight now. Because I got the line, I do it afterwards. And then I'm going to TA into a Spirit Bloom here. I'm also running Ouroboros, so if at the end we still need a little bit more healing, I will cast the Emerald Blossom like I did there, mostly because I have an Essence Burst proc, so I might as well. And then now I'm basically just prepping, so I already VE'd, and I'm prepping for the next wave that's going to come out, because I'm going to Dream Breath it, get knocked back, rewind it, and then Spirit Bloom. And again, I'm pretty sure I messed this one up. Yeah, because I pressed my Zephyr. I messed myself up. Not very good. I always learn so much when I go back and watch my VODs and I just pick myself apart. But yeah, then I'm going to Spirit Bloom. Probably cast an Emerald Blossom to get for my Ouroboros stacks, just like that. So my Leaping Flame stacks. And for this next one, it's going to be me not only prepping my stasis, but releasing my stasis. So this one is always pretty scary for us. This is the 4th knockback, and the reason it's so scary is because the Tactical Destruction is going off right now. You can see where those flames are going. It's on all these dragon heads, so we all have to get in this corner. At that same time, lines are going to be going off right before that. And then after the blast wave goes off, the tank just immediately like taunts the boss and drags it across the platform again. So it's like a lot of movement during healing, where healing is needed. So this one is always like I'm prepping stasis and I am setting stasis on this one. Again, I messed up my Call of Viscera. Really, really bad. Really, really bad. But at least on this, the one inside the stasis is going to get buffed by Call of Viscera because I have my VE back up now. And then we're fine on this one for the most part. But yeah, sometimes, especially depending on where the traps respawn on this one, because there's so much movement, and you can see we're all split up, like the DPS and the range, that one could be really scary for us. Okay, so for the next one that is coming out is just going to be a Tip the Scales. So usually it's going to be a Tip the Scales of Spirit Bloom, and all that really allows me to do is just to like safely make sure that I can get out like another full TA. And that one you saw, I actually pre-Dream Breath the damage, which is what I should have been doing more often instead of trying to like greet it, I guess you could say. At this point I was annoyed at myself for missing them because I noticed I was. And so I'm just going to TA and Tip the Scales of Spirit Bloom. We're actually really safe on this one. But I still want to get my Tip the Scales on CD. I'm going to do a Emerald Blossom. This next one is going to be a Tactical Destruction into the knockback. The lines aren't as scary on this one though, as it was on the other Tactical Destruction overlap. And this is going to be my Dream Flight. The Dream Flight here is, depending on where the traps are, a little spooky, a little hard to get full value on. Sometimes it was like really good, and sometimes it was pretty bad. So that's when I get a line, so I don't really want to go too far with it. I just want to get it on CD right away and get into a good position. So I just Dream Flight over to the corner, maybe hit 5 people with it, and then just get over here in Spirit Bloom. It's fine. We're living. Doing the mechanics is the most important part. And then the one after this is actually going to be my Emerald Communion. And then after the Emerald Communion, I'm going to be setting up my stasis for the next one instead of doing a setup and detonate on the next one. Just to make sure I get more upfront healing. I'm going to fast forward just a tiny bit just because This fight is like really repetitive. It is just like a lot of managing the traps and people going through and doing the bombs. If you played 3 tanks, it's actually really easy to deal with the bombs if you're not playing 3 tanks. Part of the problem is that people are having to commit their immunities in order to go soak the bombs, and so it makes it harder to heal. This one is my Emerald Communion, and then I'm going to be setting up my stasis right here. That was a little spooky for some reason. Okay, so this one you can see the tank is baiting because there's going to be a tactical destruction. Yeah, so you always gotta make sure you got a bait. Part of the problem with this as well as the Preservation Evoker is, especially later in the fight, you're gonna find yourself out of range of the tank a lot, and they're going to have to bait in pools quite a bit in order to bait the tactical destruction correctly. And so that gets really frustrating as well, because you will have problems with your tank dying. So right here, I'm going to detonate my stasis, and then I have another Spirit Bloom and Dream Breath on top of the one I had in my stasis for this, which I don't mind spending. So I'm gonna do that while we're in the corner. And then the next one, I have my tip the scales back. You can see it's like a lot of like just like cycling your CDs and just making sure. You can see like most of the ones that are TD overlaps, or like it's like a TD overlap with lines, are the ones where I'm making sure that I have the stasis healing. The one that doesn't have the lines is like the one where I'm doing like the dream flight, and like the ones where there's no like TD going on, nothing like super scary. Like the lines are just now going out and they are going to go off for a little while, so we have time. Like this is the kind of thing where I would tip the scales. That's kind of the main idea here. Okay, so at this point in the fight, as you can see, most of the room is filled up with lava, and what's going to happen is we're actually going to be, you're not going to, that gate was a mistake. I accidentally misclick gates all the time through my frames. Yeah. So we're going to be stuck in this corner here. So what that means is it actually makes, it seems super spooky, but it actually feels so much easier as a healer in some ways and harder in others. It's much harder on your tanks because they're having to bathe out in the fire right now in order to bait the tactical destruction away from the safe space. So you have to make sure that you're like putting externals out on the tanks when they need it. Like right here, he has GS. And then I gave him TD late because he has a bunch of stacks right now. And the other thing you have to worry about are these circles. So these circles work that if you get it, you can't get the next 2. Like whenever you have the debuff from having it recently, which is like 30 seconds. Number 1, if you get hit by another line, you're gonna get 1 shot. But second of all, you can't get targeted while you already have the line because of that. So if you don't have a debuff, then you know you need to pre-spread for this. If anybody's standing inside these, the embers, that it does like ticking AoE damage to everyone inside of it. And that's like the biggest danger here that you have to worry about. But for the most part, once you're back in this corner, things get a lot easier. The one before this was my rewind, that one was my stasis. And then that is basically where I stopped having the tracking in this little image for you. But from here on out, like how, like some kill times for this fight are like 9 minutes because there are people running 3 tanks. So that's why I didn't take the time to like fully like map out everything, because your kill time is going to be very different depending on your comp, and also just like how well you do it. It could be faster than this, it could be slower than this. But once you get back in this corner, like as far as like healing goes, most of it isn't as spooky as it was before, because for the most part everyone is really stacked up and it's really easy to heal them. But yeah, thank you so much for watching and good luck on your proc.